Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. And this week we'll explore the very basic and fundamental concept of figure and ground. We as humans have come up with a lot of ways of translating ideas, things we see in the world around us, or things we imagine, into this two-dimensional medium of a piece of paper. It's the paper itself, while drawing, at least generally flat, unless you choose to manipulate it. The marks made by the pen or pencil, kind of a one-dimensional thing, mostly lines, the connection of points into shapes. But we have ways to bring those shapes out into the resemblance, the representation of something three-dimensional looking to us. So today we'll explore that a little bit. You can kind of take this in different ways. I'll lead to an exercise that uses a technique of plan oblique, which is a way of very directly taking 2D shapes as if they were a floor plan, like a map, and giving them a dimension in the Z to look like they're 3D objects or forms. But you could also choose something around you if you have an interesting collection of simple objects, a still life, some books on the wall, some camera equipment, a few boxes and bins over there that you might want to look at and translate that directly. That works as well. So this can be a way into any exercise, and in the end it's not the shapes we're making, it's more the composition they form on the page that we'll be exploring. And there's no right answer to this. There's no composition that we're really looking for. So I notice a few things on my own drawing and fill it in a little bit more. But the observing of the result, the seeing beyond the directness of the shape, and recognizing that that shape or form we see itself is just a two-dimensional collection of lines in a particular order that makes them resemble something we see. As long as you can draw a few straightish lines and connect them to each other to form the resemblance of shapes, you'll be just fine in the exercise. I'm going to use a pencil for most of it, just for the nice lightness of its drawing, but a pen will work just fine. Anything you would like to work with. At the end, we'll do a bit of like fill or shading. So again, a pencil can open it up to be a little bit faster, more expressive, more playful. A pen might require a little more care and precision, and you can mix and match however you see fit. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. We start with a little warm-up or introduction to the general technique. Keep things fairly simple. If you can make some lines and some shapes, it usually works out just fine. So don't worry too much exactly what mine looks like, but I put the screen up here if you want to see it. You get lost with anything. I'll use a little piece of scrap paper to start with, but page in a sketchbook or the back of whatever you're working on is fine. And move to a little larger paper for the longer exercise. Size of the paper is not too important. Pen, pencil, anything will work just fine. I think I'll go with the pencil for a bit today. And the kind of meditation, the longer form exercise, will look at figure ground a little bit, the kind of profile or shape of a collection of things. But to get there, we have to make a collection of things. So for this, I'll do some imaginary things, just geometric shapes. But if you have something out in front of you want to look at that's interesting, a chair, water bottle, whatever's on the desk kind of thing, you could bring that in as well. So feel free. But to do the imaginary one, we'll use a nice, easy translation technique to go from shapes to 3D things, the plan oblique projection. So as a practice, if you draw a square, but at an angle not exactly lined up to you, so could be at 45 degrees, like a bit of a diamond, could be at any angle there on the page. We draw a few square or rectangle forms just at various angles to play around with what looks nice, what sits nice with the pen or pencil to you. Different sizes, fine. This works well with squares, but any shape. So if you want to try a few others, something like a triangle, circle even, all of those will translate. Let's keep it kind of simple. It can be a wiggly shape as well. But with any flat 2D shape like that, if we just draw a line in one direction from it, so generally up, looks 3D, and at each corner we draw that same line up the same amount, and then draw the shape again, somewhere up or down. We'll get a rough 3D representation of that. So this collection of shapes there, we can quickly extend them up, play various amounts. They'll start to look like solid prisms of some kind. And you could do things that are more variable, like a pyramid. If you bring the center up and just connect all the points to that center, get a little pyramid shape. You could do a wedge by bringing one side up more than the other and letting them close off. So kind of anything we can imagine there. And the longer exercise we'll do that. It'll take a little time imagining the collection of 2D shapes, take some time giving them some 3D. And as a final part of it, we'll think about where these shapes live. Some kind of boundary. Maybe a larger square, maybe a rectangle, something fun, squiggly thing. It could be anything. And we'll think about translating that. It's just an outline to the same boundary. It's smaller on this little scrap piece, but you could choose for your size. And what we'll look at is that space around and between things that might form as a profile. And trying to use our eyes and our attention to bring that over to the other space. And matching it exactly is not the point, and give it a try for fun, but just getting it close so we see the things and the outline of the things, and then we'll decide if those become a figure shaded in solid, or if they sit in a ground of solid or something like that. If we have time. And making a small collection of objects and then seeing them in a different way is our main focus of the exercise. So as you're ready, you can move to a new sheet, back of that one, whatever works for you. Again, size doesn't matter, paper doesn't matter. Just something you like to draw on. Get a good sense of it, where you are, where you're sitting. Give a little movement to the seat if you're sitting in it, or a little movement to your feet. You could be standing. A little movement to the torso, side to side, or rolling the shoulders. Just something to be fully aware for a moment of where you are present in space. And see if you need to make any adjustments. 20, 25 minutes of operating in this position. You can always adjust as you go. And take a couple of deep breaths to settle in. Listening, noticing anything around you. Softer sounds, contact. And as you're ready, opening to the page, choosing your instrument, pen or pencil, knowing our aim is maybe to do two things. Pick a place to start that gives you a little room, but as we saw in the warm-up, anything could work. And we'll begin just with our first shape, maybe a square turned a little to the side, maybe a triangle, something that interests you, or if there is a still life that you see nearby that you'd like to try to match their shapes, feel free. I'll just do a square as a nice, consistent starting point somewhere. As you draw it, noticing the edges, their general straightness, the angle between them. If it's a square, that 90 degrees, their sides being of similar length. Working with the pencil here, that's okay to go over it a little bit, make sure it looks correct to the eye, and begin to add value to make it stand out a little on the paper. These will become wireframes, so they'll overlap and intersect each other. But once you've made that first shape, the page is now established. There's the boundary or framing of the paper and the relationship to that moment on the page. Let the eyes see around it. Where could there be something in front of, behind, next to, or potentially even overlapping if you like? If you want to explore other shapes, maybe a triangle, feel free. And start to bring a relationship between two figures on the page. Are they close or far? With plenty of room to experiment with different arrangements there. As we draw, taking some time to notice how we form that shape, the series of shapes that we'll make. As you move on to a few more, we'll get a cluster of 4 or 5. Taking each line a little slower, one breath at a time, giving shape to what you see on the page, breathing in to find a beginning of a line, noting the direction you're going to travel, and then exhaling and letting the pencil or pen take its journey for a while. Seeing the result of that, a few breaths in between to gather the space on that paper in the mind, relocating with intention the hand and the pencil to the next starting point, inhaling to prepare, and exhaling the instrument on its journey. That moment of action, bridging the eyes, the mind, the hand, the tool, and the page, and then cycling through it again, just like the breath, breathing in as you're ready to begin a line, setting its place and direction, and exhaling it out onto the paper, noting the silence in that moment, a full release with the breath and completion of the line, a little time to take in the surroundings, to notice more deeply what's shaping there. And as you're ready, starting the next line, whether you've completed your shape, still working through it, moving to a new one, breathing in to find its place, and releasing out with action. We slow down the tempo. It's not about the completion of the shape of the figure, just noticing all parts of the action there. The texture of the page as you exhale through a line. The calm recollection as you prepare for the next leg of the journey. Moving in to find location, set a direction, and exhale along a path. Finding completion of a shape, connecting 2 points in space with the breath. Sometimes we get there right on the first try, sometimes we may miss a little bit. We can bring the 2 lines together, closing it up, forming becomes a shape, obviously what it has to be. Maybe we'll work with one more. Choose your last figure. And breathe it out into existence on the page, one edge at a time. Wrapping your way around space. Expressing that slow, relaxed, and present breath as the figure closes, defining inside and outside, defining a relationship between figures and the ground they occupy for now. And even here, we've already developed that diagram. Could move on to just looking at its positive and negative space. Simple if they're all nearby, adjacent, but not quite touching, maybe more complex if they intersect or overlap. We'll add a little dimensionality to it. A new stage of the exercise now well established, noting where you are. You can move at a little more even pace, comfortable to your natural cycle of relaxed breathing. You ever want to go back and just take some time with the breath? Feel free to watch it inhale, to let it guide the location, and to let the exhale guide the action. We're going to move from corner to corner, just give them a bit of height. Each one a breath in, placing and enacting. Regularity comes from consistency of length. Variety can come from a playful inconsistency. The shapes can go up or down, whichever way you begin to see space. And connecting the dots around to form a volume. Extrusions have equal height, but something like a pyramid or prism may have connection to a point, and just a place to play, experiment for a little while, each breath guiding a new axis of relationship, bringing the X and Y into the Z. It's just a breath and the forming of a line, and translating that same shape along that line to form itself again in a slightly new place, and give us a new perception of what it might be. If you want to experiment with some different ones, you can try bringing edges up different heights, even all different heights, and get strange in-betweens. Bring up centers or parts of edges. The shapes are just a guide to begin with. And now we're just finding points at the corners or in between, taking them up in one direction along a journey, guided by our even breath, and connecting them again in new relationships. The more things stay parallel, the more formally consistent they may look at first. But as we deviate from that axial relationship, connecting all the dots, bring things together, breathing our way around, forms emerging from shapes. Taking a little time there to see new figures. Depending on how many you have, fill out a few more, take your time with them, just knowing that translation of 2D to 3D, of shape to object. Once it's wireframed in, taking a moment to look at it relative to the page, consider its position on the paper, its orientation as a collection, mine a little more horizontal than vertical, and think of a way to bound it again in a new shape could just be a square, something portrait or landscape, or a squiggle, an arbitrary curvy shape around. As you maybe move the pen or pencil in the air, thinking through that, or use the hand to help see what it could be, all of them perfectly fine. Just a change of how we see it. We'll take a breath and start the journey, wrapping the collection of forms in their own frame. Giving them a little room or pushing them right up against the edge. Just to see them in a new context, one more than the paper would specify. To draw on a bit of a different scale, a little bigger, a little wider out, challenge the hand a little bit. And treat them like a picture there, framed in. Now somewhere else on the page, we have a little room like this to the side, recreating roughly that same proportion or shape. It has to be a different size, that's okay. You have room, making it the same size might help translate a little easier. And take the definition of the world, that framing rectangle in my case, or whatever it might be for you, and let it move the same world over somewhere nearby. The same structure, boundaries and edges. Give or take. And we'll give ourselves a chance to explore the shape of those forms, the outer edge. Coming into the original image, just breathing along each edge that forms the outline. We might go along the bottom of one shape, along its side for a little while till it meets another, change direction, move along, recognizing back to some of the 2D beginnings, a line that really just moves in directions, captures the edges of things, the place between what we see as figure and what holds it on the ground. We get a little bit of heaviness to the curve, getting to know its edges, its directions, changing how we see that outer perimeter coming foreground, the inner details shifting to the background. Just making our way all the way around to learn the composition's shape, to remember the angles and edges and lines that we built there before, to find maybe some new conditions, and make that stand out a bit from where it was. Now, as a challenge, I won't worry too much about the directness of this challenge. What we'll begin to do is bring that outer shape to the new place, another part of the page. If it helps to structure it, you can give little guidelines to things, bring them lightly across or over, and know roughly where to start something, but it doesn't have to be that strict of an exercise. Again, just begin with the eyes, finding a place that draws our attention as a distinct element, maybe a parallel edge, or a long establishing origin place. And draw it again, tracking along it with the eye, tracking its position in space, and trying to replicate it as near as we can to that relationship of seeing and moving the hand, and just working our way around from there. The start established, and now we must move in a similar direction. Use the eye to track using with the pen or pencil. Notice the angle, the length. Take a breath and let it unfold onto the paper. A reorientation, breath, a traveling along for a little while. I'll let you observe and translate this in a couple of minutes of quiet. Work your way around, noticing parallelness, like things without a mechanism of moving the points without projecting them across will get a little out of proportion. The line just a millimeter longer here or there can change everything about it, but the general outline remains similar. You notice you miss a thing here or there. Come back. Fix it up. Not worry about it. That's in and out. And then we choose the final completion of the exercise, more free letting go of the pen or pencil, letting it fill up some space, all these precise dots to lines to shapes to volumes, and be loosened up a little bit in establishing a relationship of figure and ground. Since I made a little mistake of going around here, I'll let the inside be the figure, but you can choose whether you fill the boundary between the frame and the shape, or fill the shape, let the boundary just hold it on the paper, and in a fun, looser, a more playful fashion, just start filling it in using a pen. Maybe that's kind of parallel lines, hatching. If you have a marker, you can fill it in heavy and dark with a pencil, shading. Don't follow any guides or directions. Feel free, lightly feathering the shading together, or just let go a little bit and let the pencil move. Fill things in, distinguishing inside from out, figure, ground, and enhancing the shape of objects. As you start moving the hand, the pencil, the pen, noticing how you would gauge the boundary versus the open territory. It's slowing at the edges, perhaps for more precision, or just letting it move fast, challenging that hard profile line. Notice how your eyes take in the subtle shades that happen with the pencil, little overlaps and feathers. Notice how the hand adjusts to the profile's edges. Since we draw from a certain direction, the relationship between the hand and the outline may become awkward at times. You can always adjust, reposition, or lean into that awkwardness with a change of speed or precision, a change of intensity. This more playful completion, a chance to experiment, to feel out all that precision with a little softness, to release some of the attention built in the exercise. With some softer breaths, letting the mind quiet anything that's built up through that more intense motion, repetition. And if you approach the filling of your territory, letting your pencil work its way to rest, noticing what the eyes see, perhaps the wiggly territory of the edges draws your attention, and you work your way back around, giving presence or softening it more. Giving the final few touches to what you see there, letting the eye guide you, letting the hand play and engage. The time spent creating and noticing the figure, making you familiar with it, where its turns and edges, opening it up to access, to express how it forms there in its little world. But as you feel ready and we come to the close of the exercise, you'd like to bring that pen or pencil to a rest. Make your final few marks, and always come back another time. Set it down. Give the fingers on both hands a little bit of a movement, just to even them back out. One side being more engaged for a while, the other side sleeping for a while, perhaps. Bring them back to both be awake. Take a nice closing breath or two. And go out and explore the edges of things around you today. As the exercise comes to a close, you may look there to the page and notice all the little inconsistencies and any drawing set out without first establishing the structure or without maybe following logics of projection is going to have some wiggly edges here and there. And then with practice, with attention, those can shore up closer to each other. Some of us are quicker at transcribing what our eye sees to the hand. Others, it may take forever. We never know. And that's not really the goal. The goal is noticing that translation, how one point can take its relationship to other points, form a shape that we can then reproduce in a new context, how shading inner or outer can change the way we visualize the objects, how each thing we may represent on a piece of paper with some form of drawing, while three-dimensional looking is always still tied to that two-dimensional piece of paper, that flat medium, and maybe take a little time to relish, to enjoy that understanding that we, as humans, have developed these techniques, can learn them, can pass them along, and can tease out anything from our imagination, whether we know what it is before we start or find it along the way. I know you can take that with you as you go out into the rest of your day, a little bit of mindfulness on knowing that you can bring forth things from your imagination. You can generate things from just a few simple maneuvers and techniques, and you can then reposition them, understanding them in new ways and seeing them in new contexts at any level throughout your day. If you enjoyed the exercise, please share with your friends, give it a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what you found through the exploration. Subscribe here on YouTube to get new episodes of Mindful Drawing, usually every Wednesday, with a new exploration of some way of drawing, of some way of generating, and a way of noticing our presence and mediation and engagement with that act of representing something through the medium of drawing. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and draw well. Thank you.